A killer was strangling young women in South Africa.
He's got this addiction to the omnipotent power where he thinks he's actually God.
He did have killing fields where there were numbers of bodies found.
He tortured his victims before murdering them.
Some women would fight, other women would just give up. I remember him saying that some women were as strong as men.
He used sticks to actually wind the stocking and or clothing around their necks.
He could make her so scared, most probably pleading for help. It's a race against time to catch him before he kills another innocent person.
September 17th, 1995, 12 miles east of Johannesburg, South Africa. A police reservist is taking the day off to hunt rabbits in the veld. Suddenly, the stench of decomposing flesh fills the air. Women's bodies in varying degrees of decomposition lie before him, 10 in all.
Some of them were quite fresh, and some of them were dehydrated, and some of them were skeletons.
Police arrive quickly and fan out over the area. They believe this killing field is the work of the serial killer they've been tracking for more than a year. At first they had found victims one by one, but this discovery demonstrates that the killer has become more adept and more daring. Soon the bodies of 30 women were found in similar fields from Johannesburg to Pretoria. The victims were all black and between the ages of 19 and 43. All had been strangled with articles of clothing, panties, bras and stockings. Leon Nel was one of the lead investigators on the case.
He used sticks to actually wind the stocking and or clothing around their necks.
The first body connected to the killer was found on July 16th, 1994, outside of Johannesburg. Soon after, 2 more victims turned up. Superintendent Vinol Viljoen began to see a pattern.
The scenes were similar to each other. We started looking into the fact that it can be a serial killer.
One young mother had had her hands bound with her own bra. A few feet away lay the body of her infant son. As the year wore on, police would discover a body every 2 weeks, then once a week, then 2 every week.
Yes, I'm very afraid. I can't even walk in the night.
Less than a year after the end of apartheid, black women were suddenly being subjected to a new form of tyranny.
I think he's making all the women scared, and then I don't feel very good about it. And when we go around in town or whatever, because we don't know where he stays, so I'm very scared and don't know what to do.
Struggle to find that men. They must fight to get him.
The police can't cope with this type of criminal activity without the wholehearted support of the community, and we would like to appeal to the community once again to come forward with any portion of possible information.
So brutal were the crimes, President Nelson Mandela made a personal visit to the desolate killing field. Investigators had found DNA evidence and many leads, but no clear suspects.
We didn't know who we were looking for. It could be anybody.
It's a race against time to catch him before he kills another innocent person.
Then, while sifting through evidence, police investigator Leon Nel remembered a recent news story about a missing woman.
There was an article in the Star newspaper about a lady, Trafina Mokgotsi. She disappeared under very suspicious circumstances.
Nel wondered if Trifina could be another victim of the serial killer. He decided to question her co-workers. One of them remembered a man who'd come to their workplace and offered Trifina a job just days before she'd disappeared. This matched stories told by the family members of other victims. But this time, Trifina's friend Esther Mahlangu remembered a name.
He told us that he's Moses Sithole. He told us his name.
Nel ran a check on the name Moses Sithole and uncovered a man who'd been convicted of rape. police showed Sitole's picture to Trifina's co-workers, and they positively identified him. Detectives went to Sitole's home, but found that he'd left his common-law wife Martha and his daughter Bridget a few weeks before. Sitole seemed to be one step ahead of them. Investigators put Sitole's picture on the front page of newspapers all over the country.
Every day that he's out and walking around the streets of South Africa, it can be another female that fall victim to him. And it became an obsession to me to apprehend him as quick as possible, to stop him from killing another innocent person.
Welcome to Forensic School.
It's as realistic as we can make it.
A 3-year training ground for forensic scientists and criminal investigators. Take a course in death and decomposition.
You are going to see pictures on here that you might not like.
Or a practical exam in the crime scene house.
Not many people have come face to face with this amount of blood.
Learn the art of forensic science.
It's a new breed of science graduates.
Forensic School starts next Monday at 9 on the Crime and Investigation Network.
October 1995. South African police were on the trail of suspected serial killer Moses Sitole. They knew his name, but had no idea where he was. Then, on October 18th, after receiving a tip from Sitole's brother-in-law, detectives were finally able to arrest Sitole. The man suspected of murdering 37 women and 1 child was finally in custody. Esther Mahlangu, a friend of one of the victims, was relieved to hear the news.
The woman I'm working with, we were screaming, saying that that's it, they catch him at last. We're going to be safe now.
While Sitole awaited trial, a fellow inmate managed to secretly videotape an interview with him.
They offer you money? No. But you didn't want sex from them, you just wanted to...
No, I didn't go for... I was not in a holiday. So I was crossed. I was hurt. I was aggressive.
Sitole felt that he'd been betrayed by women his whole life, and that his hatred was justified.
When we try to understand a serial killer, or any criminal for that matter, things have to be looked at. How and where this person grew up.
Moses was the 4th child of Sophie and Simon Tangawira Sitole. He was born on November 17, 1964, in the South African township of Vosloorus. It was the height of apartheid, and the black community was segregated. Any dissent was met with extreme force. Many black leaders were jailed. As a youth, Moses Sitole saw resistance to the regime turn violent.
The moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you lay down to sleep, it's this struggle against this government, this oppressive power, and it affects everything that you do in your life.
Black workers were forced to live in company housing near the factories and mines where they were employed. Moses was a bright and curious boy, but he had few opportunities for education. Life within his tin-roofed home was difficult.
He'd been abused by his mother, who he says was an alcoholic, from a stepsister that he says abused him, from being raped by a woman in his younger years.
Then when he was 6 years old, Moses' father died. Because Simon Sitole was the sole provider, Sophie and her 6 children were evicted from their home. Moses spent the remainder of his childhood bouncing from one poorly run youth home to another. Sitole described these conditions more than 20 years later during his prison interview.
The treatment was bad, really bad. You had to be